There are two narratives about the location of Osama bin Laden.
The one that you're most familiar with is that UBL is hiding in a cave in the tribal areas. The second narrative, living in a city with multiple points of egress and entries, we've located an individual we believe is bin Laden's courier. He's living in a house in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and we assess that one of the other occupants of the house is UBL.
On May 2nd, 2011, the world's most wanted man, Osama bin Laden, was finally located and killed in a covert operation by U.S. Navy SEALs. This mission was the culmination of nearly a decade of intelligence work, strategic planning, and military precision. Today, we're diving deep into the intricate details of how the United States brought Osama bin Laden to justice in Operation Neptune Spear. But to truly understand this operation, we need to start at the beginning. Who was Osama bin Laden, and how did he become the most wanted man in the world? It was during this time that bin Laden's ideology began to take shape. He saw the Soviet invasion as a direct attack on Islam, and viewed the successful expulsion of the Soviets as proof that a small, committed group of fighters could defeat a superpower. This victory laid the groundwork for bin Laden's future ambitions. Osama bin Laden was born in 1957 into a wealthy and influential Saudi family. Despite his privileged upbringing, bin Laden became deeply religious and politically radicalized at an early age. The turning point in his life came during the Soviet-Afghan War in 1979. Bin Laden joined the Mujahideen, the Afghan resistance fighters, providing them with financial support and, eventually, participating in the conflict himself. In 1988, bin Laden founded Al-Qaeda, which means the base in Arabic. His vision was to create a global network of militant Islamist fighters dedicated to defending Islam against its perceived enemies, especially the United States, whom he viewed as the greatest threat to the Muslim world. Throughout the 1990s, Al-Qaeda carried out a series of increasingly deadly attacks against U.S. interests, including the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, and the 2000 attack on the USS Cole. But it was the September 11, 2001 attacks that would make bin Laden a household name in the face of global terrorism. The 9/11 attacks, orchestrated by bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, killed nearly 3,000 people and shocked the world. In response, President George W. Bush declared a global war on terror with the primary goal of capturing or killing Osama bin Laden.
I want justice, dead or alive.
But the question was, where was he? The initial focus of the manhunt was Afghanistan, where bin Laden was believed to be hiding. The U.S. military, alongside its allies, launched Operation Enduring Freedom, toppling the Taliban regime that had provided sanctuary to Al-Qaeda. However, bin Laden managed to evade capture, escaping the U.S. forces in the rugged mountains of Tora Bora in December 2001. Over the next several years, bin Laden continued to elude capture, moving between safe houses and using a network of loyal followers to protect him. The CIA and other intelligence agencies were relentless in their pursuit, employing everything from satellite surveillance to human intelligence, but bin Laden proved to be a difficult target. His trail went cold for nearly a decade. The search for bin Laden became one of the most extensive and expensive manhunts in history. Thousands of CIA officers and analysts worked around the clock, sifting through countless pieces of intelligence, hoping to find the one clue that would lead them to bin Laden. But it wasn't until 2010 that a critical breakthrough finally came. The key to finding bin Laden lay not in locating him directly, but in tracking one of his most trusted couriers, a man known as Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. This individual had been mentioned in various detainee interrogations over the years, but it wasn't until the CIA pieced together multiple strands of intelligence that they realized al-Kuwaiti could lead them to bin Laden. After painstaking efforts, the CIA tracked al-Kuwaiti to a mysterious compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. This compound was unlike any other in the area. It was heavily fortified, with high walls topped with barbed wire. There was a 7-foot privacy wall on the third-floor balcony and had no phone or internet connections. Its residents burned their trash instead of taking it out. All signs pointed to this being a high-value target location. The compound's design and security measures were suspicious enough that the CIA began to believe that bin Laden himself might be hiding there. They monitored the compound closely for several months, using a combination of satellite surveillance and human intelligence. Although they could not confirm bin Laden's presence with absolute certainty, the intelligence was strong enough to warrant action. The decision to move forward with a raid on the compound was not taken lightly. President Barack Obama and his national security team weighed the risks and benefits carefully. There was no guarantee that bin Laden was in the compound, and the potential fallout from a failed mission could be significant. But after months of deliberation and intelligence gathering, Obama gave the order to proceed. The operation to capture or kill Osama bin Laden was codenamed Operation Neptune Spear. The responsibility for carrying out the mission was given to the United States Navy SEALs, specifically SEAL Team 6, also known as DevCrew. These elite special operations forces are among the best in the world, trained to handle the most dangerous and sensitive missions. The planning for the raid was meticulous. The SEALs spent weeks rehearsing the operation on a full-scale replica of the Abbottabad compound, practicing every possible scenario. They prepared for the worst-case outcomes, including the possibility that the mission could turn into a prolonged firefight or that bin Laden might not be there at all. One of the biggest challenges was how to get the SEALs in and out of the compound without being detected by Pakistani forces. The solution was to use modified Black Hawk helicopters designed to be quieter and less visible to radar. The pilots underwent extensive training to fly these helicopters under extremely low visibility and challenging conditions. The operation was planned to be executed in complete secrecy. The SEALs would fly from a base in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, cross into Pakistan under the cover of darkness, and reach the compound in Abbottabad in the dead of night. The mission had to be swift and precise, with the goal of completing the raid and exfiltrating within 40 minutes. As the date of the operation approached, the tension within the White House and the Pentagon grew. The risks were immense, and the stakes could not have been higher. But the team was confident in their training and the intelligence they had gathered. Everything was set for the night of May 1st, 2011. On the night of May 1st, 2011, the mission began. The 2 Black Hawk helicopters carrying the SEALs lifted off from Jalalabad and headed toward Abbottabad, Pakistan. The pilots flew low and fast, using the terrain to avoid detection by Pakistani radar. The journey took about 90 minutes. As the helicopters approached the compound, one of them experienced a problem due to the high walls and unexpectedly warm air, forcing it to make a hard landing inside the compound. The SEALs quickly adapted to the situation, continuing the mission without hesitation. The SEALs entered the compound and began clearing it room by room. They encountered resistance from bin Laden's couriers and family members, resulting in brief but intense firefights. The team moved swiftly and methodically, using their training to neutralize any threats. Finally, the SEALs reached the 3rd floor, where they found Osama bin Laden. He was reportedly in his bedroom, armed but unable to effectively defend himself. In a brief confrontation, bin Laden was shot and killed by the SEALs. They confirmed his identity and quickly secured his body. With bin Laden dead, the SEALs turned their attention to gathering as much intelligence as possible from the compound. They collected documents, computers, and other materials that would later provide valuable insights into Al-Qaeda's operations. The team then prepared to exfiltrate. The SEALs attempted to destroy the damaged helicopter to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands, but the explosion was larger than anticipated, leaving some wreckage behind. The remaining SEALs and bin Laden's body were loaded onto the 2nd helicopter, which then departed the compound, heading back to Afghanistan. Later that night, President Obama addressed the nation, announcing that Osama bin Laden had been killed in a U.S. military operation.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
The news sparked celebrations across the United States, as well as mixed reactions around the world. For many, it was a moment of closure after nearly a decade of fear and uncertainty. In the aftermath of the raid, the Pakistani government expressed outrage that the United States had conducted a military operation on its soil without prior notice. The discovery of bin Laden living in a large compound near a Pakistani military academy also raised serious questions about whether elements within Pakistan had been harboring him. The raid and bin Laden's death were met with a range of reactions from the international community. Some praised the operation as a necessary and just action against a terrorist leader, while others criticized it as a violation of international law and sovereignty. Nonetheless, the mission was widely seen as a significant victory in the fight against terrorism. The SEALs who participated in the raid returned to their base, where they were debriefed and later recognized for their bravery and professionalism. The intelligence gathered from the compound proved invaluable in the ongoing fight against Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations. Bin Laden's body was buried at sea in accordance with Islamic traditions, a decision made to prevent his grave from becoming a shrine for extremists. The operation marked the end of a chapter in the war on terror, but the fight against terrorism would continue. The killing of Osama bin Laden was a defining moment in the post-9/11 world. It demonstrated the resolve and capability of the United States to bring justice to those who would do harm. But it also served as a reminder that the threat of terrorism is ongoing and that the world remains a complex and dangerous place. The success of Operation Neptune Spear had far-reaching implications for U.S. foreign policy and counterterrorism strategies. It showed the importance of intelligence, international cooperation, and the willingness to take decisive action when necessary. Yet, it also raised questions about the ethics and legality of such operations, particularly in sovereign nations. As we reflect on this moment in history, it's important to remember the sacrifices made by those who serve on the front lines of this ongoing struggle. The story of how the United States killed Osama bin Laden is not just a tale of military might, but of the complex and often difficult choices that define our world today. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of history's most pivotal events.